What's up, everybody? It's Alex Leak and Friends NFL podcast back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Scott on the show. What's up, Scott? How's it going?
What's going on, man? How's it going?
Going good. It's good to have you on. For those of you that don't know, Scott is at Barbchair Scott on Twitter. He's on 79th and Hallis podcast. He's on Hoops and Brews Media and doing a lot of work. You're doing a lot of podcasts and stuff. It's good to see you putting out a lot of content.
Yeah, man. I pretty much do I guess like 5 or 6 a week. I got so many things. I do 7 House, which is the flagship podcast of Barbershop Network, and I got a whole bunch of other podcasts on my network. And then I do I'm Not Gonna Hold You, which is my YouTube sports show on H&B Media. So yeah, it's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
That's awesome. Good to see it. This is going to be the Chicago Bears 2021 season preview. We got a lot to talk about. 2020 didn't end the way we wanted it to, go 8-8. We went on a 3-game winning streak, had some momentum, and then lose to the Packers and still get into the playoffs somehow, the 7th seed, and then lose to the Saints. What were your thoughts on the way the season ended? And did you think it was right to move on from Mitch Trubisky at that time? And what were your thoughts towards the end of the season last year?
Well, really, I just feel like last season was just it's kind of like what the last 2 seasons have been. It's been a whole bunch of mediocre football, not bad, but not good either. It's been a mix of things. I feel like this team didn't deserve to get in the playoffs last year, and we can pretty much see that. And I think the most frustrating thing about that Saints game was, it's not like the Saints came out and just kicked our ass. Like it was a very, very close game. We had chance after chance to not only take the lead, but to win the game. And we just couldn't do it. And it was really kind of like a microcosm of what we've seen from the Matt Nagy offense all his whole tenure here, really. I do think it was time to move on from Mitch. Now I'm in the camp of people, a huge camp of people who felt he should never been here to begin with. We can sit up. I don't think everybody knew that Patrick Mahomes was going to be what he was going to be right now, but Deshaun Watson was out there. And Then also, when you hear those, all these articles the last couple of years, that you hear that Ryan Pace was going to get Mahomes if Mitch wasn't there, which is an asinine statement when you think about it. It's just kind of crazy. So, it's a mix of things. Like, it was time to move on from Mitch. But at the same time, I feel like Nagy is just as much to blame. And, he doesn't have that, person to blame this year. So, we're going to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's like the defense gave us chance after chance after chance. And you started to see it a little bit last year towards the end, where the defense started to give way a little bit because of so many 3-and-outs and not being able to score a touchdown until like the last play of that playoff game. It was just not good enough for a head coach that considers himself an offensive guru,
Right. Exactly. And just one thing on Nagy is like, I don't even know where he got that title from, because he was offensive coordinator in Kansas City for 1 season. And the 1 season that he was offensive coordinator, we all know what happened in that playoff game against Tennessee.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I remember watching that game when he first got hired, because that was some of the big, criticism around him at the time. And I was like, wow, now that I look at it now, I'm like, that's every Matt Nagy game I've ever seen in my life.
Absolutely. Get a lead and then abandon the run and blow it, and the offense can't do nothing the second half. Exactly.
Pretty much.
So we had Vic Fangio and had a really dominant defense. Fangio goes and gets a head coaching job in Denver. Pagano didn't work out. Glad to see move on from that direction. How do you feel about the Fangio disciple, Sean Desai? Former Bears safeties coach, coming in is going to be his first year as DC. Are you optimistic about him turning around, getting the defense back to top 5 or close to it?
I'm optimistic, definitely. I don't know about top 5. I think top 5 will be a very hard hill to climb, considering if you look at the other defenses in the league. Like, Tampa's going to be in there. Buffalo's going to be in there. There's going to be other teams that are better than the Bears. I think what we saw in 2018 was like this defense at the height of its powers. I'm not looking for that. You know what I'm saying? I think, I think we had like 40 total turnovers that year. That's not going to happen. They can give me even half of that. I'll be fine. But I do think he can get it to top 10. I think he can get it to respectable. I think the last 2 seasons, they have had no type of pass rush. And I think that's affected the secondary, because, everything's won at the trenches. If you're not getting any pressure, it's going to be, just terrible for your secondary. And I think Pagano was way too progressive. Well, not progressive, way too passive. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, with his defense. And it was kind of disappointing because he was promoted as being aggressive when he brought here. And I think that Desai can actually bring that element back, and I like that he's a Fangio disciple. But it's going to come down to the personnel too. Like you can have all the players you want, but we're going to need Khalil Mack to get back to how he was his first year. We're going to need Hakeem Hicks to be back, and I think the big thing that's going to help for this defense is Eddie Goldman. I think we don't really realize how big his absence was last year. So I'm very optimistic. There's one side of the ball I'm optimistic about is the pass rush more than anything. I'm still kind of so on the secondary, especially without Kyle Fuller. But I think the pass rush has a chance to at least be a very, very good crew out there.
Yeah, I agree. The pass rush and the run D should get back to being really formidable as well.
Definitely.
What do you think? So then we move on from Trubisky. What did you think? We were pretty aggressive and pretty early on signed Andy Dalton to a 1-year, $10 million deal. I hated it at the time. We tripled his 2020 salary that he made in Dallas. I didn't think he looked that great in Dallas. The Cowboys didn't make the playoffs, a loaded offense there. So I'm not sold on the Dalton move right away. And then I think that had something to do, a little bit, that 10 mil of not being able to bring back our number one corner in Kyle Fuller. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the thing about the Dalton thing when it happened, I was very disappointed because remember all the rumors at the time was Russell Wilson. He was heavy into Russell Wilson talks, and there was even the thing that the Bears thought they got him, and Pete Carroll changed his mind last minute. And so to go from Russell Wilson to Andy Dalton is a supreme letdown. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like you said, he wasn't that good. Let's just keep it funky. He was trash last year. Like I watched a lot of Cowboys games. Being in the California market, we get a lot of them out here. But they had a loaded offense. You got CeeDee Lamb, you had Amari Cooper, you had Zeke Elliott, and they had a lot of trouble moving the football. And for me, when that signing happened, I was like, okay, I hate it, but what else are we going to do this particular time? We're not bringing Mitch back. I thought there was no chance in hell we were getting Justin Fields like a month later. So, at the time, I thought I hated it, but it was like, what else can we possibly do? I think that was the only move they had at the table. Right now, I'm like, I know you paid them $10 million, but you're the Chicago Bears. Yeah, probably like the top 3, top 4 most profitable franchise in football. You're going to make that $10 million back by week 3. So
exactly.
I don't even understand why money shouldn't have a problem, shouldn't be an issue as far as making sure he's a starter. So, it's a whole bunch of things in this franchise, man.
Yeah, I know. And one of the things that frustrated me most is that it's March, right? And we signed Dalton, and he comes out, Dalton says, the reason I signed here is because they told me I was the starter. I'm like,
Crazy.
Who the hell, what kind of organization names their starting quarterback in March? It made no sense. And I think that promise back in March is partly the reason why Dalton's starting week 1.
I mean, this is also a franchise we learned today is letting their third quarterback choose where his next destination will be.
Exactly.
Which is asinine. And it's like, when you kind of promise, I know a lot of people brought it up, you need to keep your promise. I mean, it's not like, all respect to Andy Dalton. I think when even in his quote unquote prime, he was just a good quarterback. Like he wasn't anything to run home with. I think just because you renege on your promise, Andy Dalton isn't going to affect your free agent standing, especially what they see as good as Justin Fields in. There's going to be people swarming to come play in a big market like Chicago. So to me, that's another BS reason that's just protecting this organization. And to me, only the Chicago Bears could get a franchise quarterback and still be the dog. I don't know what I'm doing, man. And it's crazy.
Yeah, It's ridiculous. And yeah, as a Bears fan, you just sit back and be like, only the Bears. Only the Bears.
Only the Bears.
Yeah, like my thoughts were, why pay 10 million for Dalton? Dalton to me isn't really, maybe barely, but him and Nick Foles are the same. And so you're already paying Nick Foles as much as you're paying him. Why not just keep Nick Foles, have him be the bridge quarterback? I know they didn't think that they were going to get Justin Fields, and we'll get to that in a second, but why couldn't have we just stuck with Foles and, bring in someone to back him up and then hopefully draft somebody? You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense, considering that Nick Foles has had way more playoff experience, way more in one playoff game, something like Andy Dalton. And to be real, he looked better last year. Dalton did. I mean, and I thought Nick Foles looked very bad for the Bears last year, but he looked better than Andy Dalton. I remember, I know that he did, pretty decent in that game against Tampa. I mean, he wasn't bad for at least 2 or 3 games for us. So I'm with you on that. Like, if I would have rather than run it back with Foles than Dalton. At least you're not paying him $10 million. So,
exactly.
I definitely agree with that for sure.
Yep. Now let's get to some good news here. The Justin Fields, the draft pick. I did not think there was any chance that, first of all, that Fields would fall out of the top 10. I thought teams like maybe Atlanta,
for sure,
but like Denver, Carolina, Detroit even would have their eyes on Justin Fields somehow. And my worry was that if we were going to take him, Pace was going to be super aggressive and give up a lot of future picks to move into the top 10. And I thought that for once, maybe by luck, but for once, Pace played it perfectly, waited for him to fall outside the top 10, then swooped up and got him. I could, you can't be happier really with that move.
Yeah, I mean, I'm part of the Ryan Pace hater club. I've been here a long time. Like, I'm talking about, since 2016. Like, ever since he traded Brandon Marshall for some Krispy Kremes, I really didn't really mess with him at all. And I know a lot of people like, well, you got Adrian Amos at him. Like, well, that's for you people who thought Adrian Amos was really that good, and I'm not in that camp. But I just feel like, I'm not going to give him credit for, something, for cleaning up a mess that he made. You know what I'm saying? Like, the mess that you made was passing up on, somebody who was on a Hall of Fame trajectory, but we don't know. He might be in prison in like 2 weeks with Deshaun Watson, but and definitely somebody who's generational in Patrick Mahomes. So I'm not going to give him that much credit for that. I do think that I will say good for him for moving up. I didn't even watch the draft. Like, that's how convinced I was the Bears weren't going to get anybody worth of substance. And I just remember I was watching a White Sox Detroit Tigers game, and I remember the ESPN alert came up, says Bears are trading up. And I looked at the draft, and I'm like, okay, Justin Fields hasn't been drafted yet. So, I will say, at least he went up to get it, but it's kind of like, okay, you messed up and you just pretty much, clean up your mess. That's really nothing else I can give him besides that. But that's the one thing about this team that gets you excited, is we have somebody who we know can be the future of this franchise.
Absolutely. I was, once we drafted him, it's like, wow, like we actually have a future. We have potential here. And, to have the next guy, the guy that we haven't had since Sid Luckman. So, it definitely, like, before the Fields pick, I was on the podcast saying, look, we need to boycott the Bears this year. We need to show them we're upset, not go to games. Now, with fans coming back, it's going to be really hype in Chicago once Fields does start. What are your thoughts on Dalton starting week 1, and how long do you think he will be the starter until Fields gets the job?
Like I said we did a season preview on 79th and Howless. It's out right now, and like I said on there, man, I feel like it's pointless. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know Nagy keeps bringing up Mahomes and Andy Dalton, not Andy Dalton, but Alex Smith. And the reason that's a crazy comparison to me is because, number one, Dalton and Alex Smith. Number one, Alex Smith is a way better quarterback than Andy Dalton, and also Alex Smith was not in Tampa. He was in Kansas City for 3 years before that and led them to 3 division titles. So he had been there. He had the locker rooms backing. They had been to the playoffs. Andy Dalton knows as much of this playbook as Justin Fields. So to me, it's pointless. And you have a lot of people say, well, you don't want him to go against Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey in that defense. This is the NFL. You can't hide players. Eventually, he's going to play. And he's going to go against good defense. So what, you sit him in the first 2 weeks, and then he gets to see Myles Garrett week 3, and then you got to see the Smith boys in Green Bay. You got to see, all these other great defenses they're going to play. I think it's just a waste of time. And as you saw last year with Justin Herbert, it's better to get you out there right now. I don't care if he starts out there, he gets sacked 3 times, and he throws 3 picks against Jalen Ramsey. Get it all out right now so that when next year he's not going through rookie stuff in year 2. Justin Herbert's going to be ahead of the curve this year because he went through all the bumps and bruises last year. So to me, we're not in the league of the NFL where you have to sit people anymore. And let's keep it real. Aaron Rodgers only sat because Brett Favre ain't no one to call it quits. That's the only reason that it happened. So to me, it's just he's a different asinine comparison. I can see if Dalton had been here a couple years, he knew the system, that would make more sense. This to me is just Nagy thinks he's smarter than a lot of people, and that's what I get from this.
That's the biggest issue, and I agree. Like if we had a proven veteran that he could learn from, absolutely. But your goal every week should be to win football games. And right now it's like we're just going through the motions, going through a charade. We know chances are if Fields comes in week 4 or week 2, we're going to be 0-1 or 1-2 at best.
Right.
And then it's going to be an uphill climb. So I agree. Put him out there early. Let him learn on the fly, I think would be best for him. And that's the thing on Nagy. I just feel like that was a really good point you said. Nagy thinks he's smarter than everyone else. He lets his ego run how he runs his team. And it's horrible. And, the quicker he gets out of town, in my opinion, the better.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, like, oh, he's like Mark Trestman. Honestly, I'm not even going to give him Trestman. At least Trestman's first year here, the Bears were second in offense in the NFL.
Yep.
Now, I remember Cutler and Martellus Bennett and Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey and Matt Forte scoring points. He wishes he had half of that offense. I think the highest rate offense we had since he's been here, 16th in 2018? Yeah. Like, it's not even cracked top 10. So it's just really, really crazy. One thing I will say about this, and I said this also on the pod, everybody talks about job security. I don't think Matt Nagy's job is on the line, but I'm going to use a Game of Thrones reference here. I do think that Ryan Pace will Bruce Bolton Matt Nagy if he has to. if it's getting a little too hot in the kitchen, I think he'll get rid of Nagy to save his job. I do. Yeah. I don't think they're tied to the hip like a lot of people think. I think Pace has a lot more job security than Matt Nagy does.
Oh, yeah. And they said so themselves this offseason, talking about how they love Ryan Pace and he's such a good guy to work with and all that.
Yeah. I think even it's not even about record. I think Matt Nagy's offense has to show. Especially when Fields get out there. If it's looking like the same stuff, then it might get a little hot for him. So that's going to be one thing that's going to be interesting to watch this season.
But there is reason to be optimistic, too, once he does get out there. If we can figure out the offensive line, if we can actually run the ball and play a balanced offense, you got a good up-and-coming running back in David Montgomery. I like what we've seen out of Khalil Herbert. Hopefully Tariq Cohen gets back sooner than later. You got Allen Robinson.
I'm just gonna let y'all know about Tariq Cohen. We've been at camp. I would be shocked if he plays a snap this year.
Damn.
And he's been limping a lot. They've been real. And one thing you got to pay attention to with Nagy, he doesn't keep it real about injuries. Remember with Tevin Jenkins, he was saying, oh, well, it's getting better each week. Before a couple weeks later, he got back surgery. So I will say I will be very shocked if Tariq Cohen plays it down this year. He did not look good.
Man, I hope you're wrong. I'm a big Tariq Cohen fan, but it's not encouraging that we haven't seen anything from him.
Yeah, it's not looking good. I hope I'm wrong too, but yeah.
I do like I like our tight end group. You got Jimmy. Well, I'm not a big Jimmy Graham guy, but he's a red zone threat.
He's a red zone threat for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Cole Kmet, I'm looking forward to year 2 out of him. I really like the Jesse James. He seems to have some early chemistry with Fields. And then Horsted showed out in the preseason game. Now, what's your thought? So you're a Pace critic. what's your thought? So I was mad when he got rid of Robbie Gould, and then talked about we upgraded when we brought in, who was it? Connor Barth.
Connor Barth, yeah.
But somehow it's like he lucked into another kicker. Cairo Santos breaks Robbie Gould's record for 27 consecutive made field goals last season. Is it a fluke, or do you think Cairo might be a reliable kicker again this year?
I think Cairo will be a reliable kicker. I was one of the few who wasn't mad about Robbie Gould being let go, because he was really, really bad his last 2 years here. Like, I think a lot of people forget how bad he was just because, Robbie Gould, he took a kick that, helped get us the Super Bowl. He's been one of the best kickers, probably the second best kicker in Bears history. And, but he was really, really bad. But it's kind of like when they fired Lovey, or I like to compare like these three coaches. Like when the Bulls fired Tibbs, when the White Sox fired Ozzie Guillen, and when the Bears fired Lovey Smith. All three should have been fired, but the guys you replaced them with were not supposed to not get replacements. So it's about who they replaced Robbie with. They didn't do a full kicker search, which is really bad. But I think Cairo, he's going to be good, man. I think the pressure's off him. All the eyes were on him, last year, with the failures that we seen from Cody Parkey, and even Eddie Pinheiro was hot and cold, and so that's kind of we're not even thinking about kicker anymore. And I think he'll be pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good take. Real quick, what do you think on Roquan Smith being left off of the top 100 players? I think that's unreal. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I think it's a slap in the face, but at the same time, I treat the NFL top 100 as just it's a player put together list. It's really just who the players are cool with. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people on there who shouldn't be on that list or as high as they are, and even I love Khalil Mack. I think Khalil's a little higher than it should have been this year. I think it's really just a popularity contest. So, Roquan is one of those guys, and I think it's because Roquan don't talk. I think he's a real quiet dude. You really don't know. If you're not a Bears fan, I don't think you would know Roquan Smith if he was walking down the street. So I think that has a lot to do with that. But Roquan is he's a top 2 linebacker in this game, but at the worst, top 5. And I do think you can't name 100 players better than Roquan Smith. And I do think he's going to get paid a lot of money. I do think the Bears will pay him. And I know it's a hot topic. A lot of people worry. I think Allen Robinson will get his money too. I think both of them will get signed.
Yeah, I hope so. And I agree. I would put Roquan in that Darius Leonard, Fred Warner type.
Definitely, for sure.
So expectations, even if, let's say, Fields gets out there week 4 at the latest.
That's the game I got him going. Week 4 against Detroit.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes the most sense. What are our expectations? I got them penciled in around 6 to 9 wins, battling for 3rd or maybe 2nd at best. Defense is good enough to carry us, but I still got my offensive concerns. What do you think about the Bears' expectations this year?
I got them at 9-8. That's my record prediction. I do think if everything goes right, I think the floor is 6. Like, I think if nothing goes right, it'll be a 6-win team. I just think this team they're a mediocre team. Like, you look at the last 2 years, offense was god awful, and they were still 8-8 both years, and even last year they made the playoffs. And I think we were like we missed the playoffs like a game in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So I do think that this offense will be a little better than the last couple of years, just because I do believe Andy Dalton is a better quarterback than Mr. Trubisky. Not by that much, but I do think he is. So, and then, of course, Justin will come in and he'll make that offense better. So I'm going to say 9 wins and 6 will be the floor. So I'm with you right there, but it's going to be a real mediocre team, man. You might see them, they will not make the playoffs. I think all 4 NFC West teams are going to make the playoffs. And I think they're going to miss because Matt Nagy's going to waste the first month of the season with this Andy Dalton experiment.
Yeah, and it's like, if me and you can see that, how does Nagy and the people at Hallis Hall not know that and be like, look, let's get out to a hot start right away. Let's try to win games the first month and maybe go on a playoff run. Instead, they'd rather take the patient approach, whether it's politics or keeping a promise or whatever. I'm not a big fan of it. But at least the everything's looking up, and 2022 should be a special year if we can keep going the right way.
Hopefully, man. I just want to see Justin. I want Justin to have a good year, and I want Justin to be healthy. That's really the only thing I've got coming into the season, man.
I like Damian Williams. You like him? I think that's a good under the radar acquisition as well.
Yeah, I love it. I love that signing, man. He was really, really good for Kansas City. Truth be told, he should have been the Super Bowl MVP 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
I love Patrick Mahomes. He's my favorite quarterback, but he got that name. He got that MVP off name.
Yeah.
Damian Williams was the MVP of that game. I think he's gonna be great. I like a lot of the sign. I like Marquise Goodwin. There's a lot of pieces on this offense that I like. I just don't like the guy who's calling the plays.
Exactly. Some people say it's about Jimmy's and Joe's, not X's and O's. But I think it's got a play caller like Nagy. Sometimes that can override it. And maybe we need to go back to Bill Lazor at some point again this year.
And the ball moved a little bit more with Bill Lazor too. And it's just Nagy. He's in his head. He's gonna have to fall flat on his ass for him to realize that this isn't working. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately for us as Bears fans, and more than Bears fans, if I'm the Bears defense, I'd be pissed off because a lot of them dudes only got a couple more years left in their prime. And that's, I think, something that's going to factor into Justin plan is I think after 2 weeks, the defense is going to come to like, yo, what's up, man? Like, we out here busting our ass. We've been carrying this team since you got here. The defense has been carrying this team since they got here. Give us some slack. Put the guy who gives us the best chance to win.
Absolutely. It's up to our defensive leaders, Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks,
Eddie Jackson.
Yep.
And we all know how Eddie feels about it. We saw Eddie's IG Live the night that Justin got drafted. Like, so we know how he feels about it.
He saw a Super Bowl window. He saw playoff, victories. You want to win. You don't want to just be competing out there. You want to win and be playing meaningful football late in the year. So I agree 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right. Well, thanks for coming on, man. It was great to have you on. Good Bears season preview. Everybody check out the podcast, 79th and Hallis. And,
yes, sir.
Everything you got going on. And hopefully it's a great year for the Bears. Thanks for coming on, Scott.
No problem, man. Glad to be on.
Yep. All right. Appreciate the support. Everyone have a good week. And peace out.